Hi, and welcome to Tutorial 3, Creating Mixes and Managing User Feeds. This tutorial will show you how to create and edit mixes, as well as how to create customized user and mill feeds for use in NittanyCow rations. As you view this tutorial, you may want to pause the video so that you can follow along on your computer, and you can always watch this tutorial again until you are comfortable with the topics that are covered. For more information on anything you see here, please visit our website, www.NittanyCow.com. Let's begin by looking at an existing ration. Often dairy operations will utilize one or more premixes in a ration, or you may wish to create a total mix ration once the ration is appropriately balanced. A mix simply locks in the ratio of specified feed ingredients so that they can be manipulated as a single feed within a ration. Once a mix is created, the proportions of any feeds can be edited, so don't be overly concerned with entering the exact as-fed or dry matter amounts of each feed before you create the mix. To create a mix, first make sure that all the desired feeds are present in the ration, and the appropriate feed costs have been entered in the cost worksheet. Please note that NittanyCow will automatically calculate the price of the total mix as long as the cost of the mix ingredients has been entered using the same unit of measurement for all feeds. Next, enter approximate values for the feeds that will be included in the mix. In this example, I'm going to create the mix on a 100% dry matter basis, so this feed will be 50% corn grain, 25% soybean meal, and 25% molasses on a dry matter basis. We will see later how to adjust the feeding level of the mix. Once the appropriate feed amounts and costs have been entered, highlight the feeds you wish to include in the mix by clicking the blank space to the very left of the first feed in the mix, then hold down the control button to select all other desired feeds. The mix feeds do not have to be listed in consecutive order to be included in the mix. Now that the feeds have been highlighted, right-click on the blank space to the very left of any of the highlighted feeds, and choose the Create Mix option. Make sure to click on the blank space at left, or the appropriate mix options will not appear. In the Mix window, enter a mix code. You can use a date or any other number you wish. NittanyCow will use this number to identify the feeds in the database, but the user will never see this number again. If you enter a number that is a duplicate of another mix code, NittanyCow will add a 1 to the number, so don't be overly concerned with entering a unique number. This number is strictly for internal tracking by NittanyCow and really makes no difference to the user. Next, enter a mix name. This will be the name that identifies the mix to the user, and it can also be anything you wish, as long as you remember which mix belongs to which mix name. Now we need to select the mix type and class. This will designate where the mix is stored when we copy the mix to user mixes a little later in this tutorial, but it does not affect the values or composition of the mix, so please don't be overly concerned with choosing options that exactly match your mix. Once this information has been entered, click OK. Now let us suppose that we need to change proportions of certain feeds in the mix. From the Show Feeds Mixed view, right-click on the mix name and select the Edit Selected Mix option. Only the ingredients in the mix will be displayed, but totals and concentrations for the entire ration will still be listed at the bottom of the screen. Here you can change any of the values for any feed in the mix, and you can see how they affect the total formulation of the ration. When you are done making the desired changes, right-click on any feed in the mix and select the Close Mix option. This will return you to the ration. In this example, I formulated the mix on a 100% dry matter basis, so now I want to adjust the dry matter or as-fed amount to something close to a reasonable feeding level. In this case, I probably will want to revisit the Edit Mix window to fine-tune the mix so that it balances the ration appropriately. Please be careful. If you change the dry matter or as-fed amount of a mix to 0, then adjust this number to a non-zero value, NittanyCow will lose the correct ratio of feeds, and your mix will not calculate correctly. Now that we have the individual feeds and mixes adjusted, we often would like to formulate a total mix ration, or TMR. To do this, select all the feeds and mixes to be included in the TMR, and create a mix in the same manner as before. For type and class, select TMR. Once the mix is created, you can change the total intake of the ration on a dry matter or as-fed basis, and NittanyCow will recalculate the feed levels for each feed or mix in the ration. Once the TMR is done and appropriately adjusted, you may want to use the Unmixed Selected Mix option to make it easier to see your premixes in the ration in the unmixed form. If at any point you want to undo a mix, right-click on the mix name and select the Unmix Selected Mix option. This will erase the mix from the ration and return the individual mix feeds to the ration feed list. You can also delete a selected mix, but be careful because this will also erase those feeds from the ration. Also, make sure you remember the difference between the Unmixed Selected Mix and Show Feeds Unmixed options. Showing feeds unmixed will not undo the mix. Unmixing a selected mix will completely erase the mix from the ration. Now that we've got all our mixes and feeds properly adjusted, we'd like to save some of these feeds and mixes for use in other rations. We can do this simply and easily by saving the desired ingredients to user or mill feeds or user or mill mixes. The user and mill designations for customized feeds or mixes really have no distinction, though it is generally recommended that feeds provided by a specific dairy are saved in the user lists, and feeds supplied by feed mills are saved to the mill lists. In the end, the choice of whether to save a particular feed or mix to the user or mill lists is strictly a matter of user preference, provided the user remembers where these items were saved. To continue, right-click on the feed or mix name you wish to save and select the Copy to User Feeds or Copy to User Mixes option. Note that you will need to be in the Show Feeds Mixed view to use this option for mixes. When you select this option, NittanyCow will notify you that the feed or mix was copied to user feeds. This means it is now available for use in other rations, so let's do that. Here is a different ration I created earlier, and I would like to add the grain mix that I created in the previous ration. To add a user mix, go to Feeds and select Add a Mix. For source, I will select User. Lastly, I saved this mix type as a grain, so I will select the grain feed type. Now I can see my mix, which I will select and click OK. The ration now contains my customized grain mix. This same process works for user or mill feeds as well. Once your customized feed has been copied to the user or mill feeds list, go to the ration menu, select Add a Feed, highlight the user or mill source, and find your customized feed. Once a feed or mix has been added to a ration, it can be adjusted or manipulated the same as any feed from any other source. This convenient feature allows users to make adjustments to their most commonly used feeds and mixes without having to make the same adjustments in every single ration. Using these functions, it should never be necessary to adjust a given feed or mix more than once. This concludes Tutorial 3. For more information, please consult the NittanyCow help file and other NittanyCow tutorials, or contact NittanyCow customer support to ask more questions.